All right, Steeler fans, second half of the show on Friday. It's time for the All Betz Are Off segment. Jeremy Betz joins me. What's up, Jeremy? How's it going?
It's going great, Jeff. This is the last one for us before the first round of the draft. So let's break it down, man. Let's get these last thoughts in.
That's right. Before we do, because I'm going to give I want your prediction because, like you said, next time we talk, I mean, this is going to be craziness. But still, I want to ask you, the top 30 visits are done. Everyone's in. That's going to be coming in. They're done. They used all 30. That is not something the Steelers have typically done. Sometimes they do like 26, 27. They'll do some locals. And I think they had 4 locals and 30 visits, so 34 total players coming in. What was your takeaway? And on our tracker on steelcurtainnetwork.com, we actually did the position by position breakdown. I mean, it seemed pretty obvious who they were trying to bring in terms of running backs, defensive linemen, stuff like that. Quarterbacks even were up there. What was your takeaway from those top 30 visits?
Yeah, I think it was pretty telling, like where they prioritize their needs. And I don't want to say that that's going to absolutely dictate the order in which they draft these guys, because you never know. And we've talked about this on this show. I've talked about it with Andrew on the Steelers Fix from Thursday, that it feels like a value draft for the Steelers, and we've seen them kind of play that route in recent years under Omar Khan and Andy Weidel, where whoever the value pick is going to be the one that they take. So as far as the order of things, I don't think that draft visits can tell us too much of that. I just think they're doing their due diligence on the positions that we've all kind of agreed, and it seems like that they believe as well are the areas that they need to address most prominently on the roster. So defensive tackle, they brought in a lot of those. They brought in some first round guys like Derek Harmon. They brought in some mid round guys. So could they be looking to double dip at that position? I think that that's a very big possibility, if you will, to get that done. Wide receivers, they brought in a lot of mid-round prospects. They also brought in Matthew Golden, so he's in the category of early round picks that could go that way as well. And then all the running backs, 9 running backs coming in for visits is pretty impressive. When you look at this stable, they wanted to get a great idea of who they could get, all the way from early second round type players like Caleb Johnson and Travion Henderson, who was their last visit, all the way down to maybe early day 3 guys like DJ Giddens or Dylan Sampson. So there's a wide range there. So again, to me, they've honed in on the positions where it feels like they're going to target, but the order in which they do so, they've seen enough guys from a variety of rounds, projected rounds here, to where it tells me that whatever they feel is the best value, whoever's highest on their big board of those 3 or 4 positions is probably going to be the one that goes off the board first.
All right. So let's talk about the board. Let's talk about round 1. The thing is, you can do as many mock draft simulations as you want. Doesn't matter. Every time you do one, there's typically some semblance of a run on a position. Oftentimes the run that you hear of is like quarterbacks early because, well, they're hard to come by. I don't know if that's necessarily the case this year. Let me ask you a general question before we get into specifics. How many quarterbacks, if you're predicting, get drafted in the first round?
Okay. So I've been pretty staunch up to this point that I think only 2 guys are going in the first round, because I've seen the NFL trend, except for last year when there were a couple. Well, those guys were fringe first round talents, like evaluated fringe first round talents in Michael Penix Jr. And Bo Nix. Even, McCarthy was basically a top 15 projected player the whole draft process. And those 2 other quarterbacks kind of snuck back into the first round conversation. They ended up going a little bit higher than we expected them to, but still, they were expected to be first round talents. Now the late talk on a lot of these guys is, these guys could get pushed up into the first round because the class isn't that great and there are some teams that are high on them. I'm not buying that, Jeff. I'm just not buying that teams are going to press on the quarterbacks. Number one, if you overreach on a quarterback and it doesn't work, it's basically career suicide for you as a coach or a GM, especially say like Brian Daboll and the Giants. If they jump back into the first round and reach for a quarterback and it doesn't work out, I don't think that works out well for them. I don't think they're coaching there the next year or the year after that. So to me, I think there's going to be a waiting game for these quarterbacks. It's not a guarantee that Shedeur Sanders goes in the top 20 picks of this draft. And if that is the case, then I don't think anybody sneaks ahead of him. And I'm pretty darn sure that nobody is jumping the gun to get a fifth round or the 5th-year option on Jackson Dart. I just don't feel like that. So I think 2 quarterbacks go in the first round.
Well, it's funny because I think that people coming back into the first round is maybe how that number gets elevated to maybe even 3 or 4. And the reason being is I heard not from our source within the Steelers, but I heard from another league source, and he's pretty trustworthy. He said that he's hearing that the Saints are going to try and get back into the first round ahead of 21 because they're afraid the Steelers are going to take a quarterback and they need a quarterback. So maybe a Jackson Dart is their guy, or maybe a Shedeur Sanders is their guy, and they come back into the first round. The Giants could do the same thing. The Browns could do the same thing. All quarterback needy teams. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we know Cam Ward's going to go. Other than that, it's kind of like this hodgepodge. I could see Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders going in round 1. I could see Jackson Dart going in round 1, but I think could go before Jackson Dart is Tyler Shuck. I think Tyler Shuck sneaking into the late round 1, because what does everyone say? He's probably the most talented kid, but he's old and he's hurt often. That's the biggest knack on him. So some people might say his talent's too good to pass up. We're going to bank on him staying healthy and using his experience in college. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I would pose too, like, so say Shedeur Sanders is dropping, right? The Saints don't take him at number 9. If they're going to jump the Steelers for a quarterback, it's Shedeur Sanders probably. So he's still the other quarterback that you're trying to go get in the first round. And then, like you said, there may be some jockeying for position here at the back end of the first round between the Browns and the Giants, and maybe even the Jets, or the Rams could be in on a quarterback at the back end of the first round. The Raiders could jump back in. So maybe that jockeying for position is what ends up elevating somebody back into the first round to take one of those quarterbacks. So that's definitely a possibility. The one consideration I have is that nobody past Pittsburgh needs a quarterback really in this draft. So except for the Rams, if they're looking ahead to the future. And I personally think that they're going to be attacking this year to see if they get one more run out of Matthew Stafford. So it would have to be somebody jumping back into the first round to grab one of these guys. And we'll see if somebody's willing to trade out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So let's do some predictions here. You don't have to run through the entire round 1 of what you think is going to happen, but what do you see in terms of how things break down? Because when I do, and I wrote these articles, I've done 2 already. I hope to do 3 more before the draft on Thursday. And those are just scenarios. And I do a mock draft simulator and I run through them and I say, okay, who's available? And for the first one I did, we had a lot of options at defensive line, defensive tackle. I took Derek Harmon. The second one, Harmon was gone. And I didn't think Kenneth Grant, although he'd be great now alongside Cam Hayward. I don't know. I went with safety because we had talked about that here. A lot of people did not like that, but still, what do you see happening and what do you think the Steelers are going to do in round 1?
So let me preface this by saying that I think when the Steelers have built out their big board here, if I had to pick who the number 1 player on their big board is, I'll bet it's Derek Harmon. I would make that bet that it's Derek Harmon. So you going with him in one of the scenarios makes a ton of sense. And so I think that if he's there at 21, they will take him. They won't worry about trading back. They won't worry about doing, whatever maneuvering that we think they might be interested in doing. If Derek Harmon is there, I think he is the pick at 21. That's just my thought, because the other defensive tackle, Mason Graham, he's probably going in the top 10. I don't think he's falling. So he's probably not going to be on there. This is one of the guys we can go get big board, if you will. Right. So Derek Harmon probably tops that out. And then beyond that, I really do think that it could be as simple as, if Derek Harmon's not there, we want to get out of this pick as much as possible. So we will see if we can stomach an offer to move back in this draft, and the remaining the only thing that I think would keep the Steelers from trying to trade back if Derek Harmon is not there is if they just can't find a partner. So the other guys who might be in that range that I think that they would be interested in, Matthew Golden that we saw come in, one of those running backs. I think that they would be willing to take a running back at 21 if the right guy's there and they're unable to address it another way or address defensive tackle. Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, those are all options. But if I had to predict it today, Jeff, if Derek Harmon's there at 21, I think he's the pick. And if he's not there, I think that they would want to trade back more than take any other player on the board.
Is there any world that you see them taking a quarterback in round 1?
Not me personally. I really don't see that unless it's like the Chiefs at 31 that send them a trade offer and they go up and get somebody at 21 and you're all the way back at 31 and you're like, what the heck? Let's just take one of these guys that we thought might make it to the 3rd round that we don't think is going to do that anymore, like Milrow or Shuck or something along those lines. But outside of that, I can almost guarantee you, I don't know what you've heard, but I can almost guarantee you that the Steelers are not trading up for Shedeur Sanders. That's just not going to happen.
I have not heard that. I have not heard that at all. But I've heard rumors of people talking about that, and someone's like, "Yeah, they're going to trade up to 9 with the Saints." No, like I don't think that's going to happen at all. But again, that's I think not what they think. Who knows what's going to happen? But what are your final thoughts on this prediction process?
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and predict the pick right now. I think it's Derek Harmon. If he's there, he's the pick. That's what I'm going to go with, probably in my mock draft for the Steelers as well, as it's coming up. And as far as like what happens around them to get him there, I would not be surprised if one of these teams like the Broncos, who pick at 20, they jump up into the top 10 for Ashton Genty or Tyler Warren if they were to make it past the Raiders, say, at 6. And then you start to see maybe some teams start shuffling for who's best available at our main position of need. Let's go get him. But a lot of the teams that need defensive tackle in this draft as well, like the Seahawks or the Bengals, the Steelers' rival, they need offensive line help probably even more. So those guys, the offensive linemen are going to be one to watch. If the Steelers really want to get their hands on Derek Harmon, but they don't want to have to trade up, I think that they're going to want to see some of these offensive linemen jump ahead in this draft class, and some of the quarterbacks too. They probably want somebody to jump in front of them for Jackson Dart or something like that, just to see one of these other players fall. But again, my big thing is that they're going to play for value all throughout this draft, even in round 1.
All right. So real quick, who is the Steelers comp for Derek Harmon? Like think about a former Steeler that you're like, okay, if you want to know what play style this guy is, it's this guy. Who would that be?
So, I mean, this is the easiest one of the draft. It's Cam Hayward, and it's not even close to anything else that I could think of.
So you see more Cam than Stephon Tuitt or someone like that?
Yeah, I do, because he's not quite as anymore. He's not quite as big as Stephon Tuitt was. And he's got a lot of lateral quickness and agility, but he is very Cam Hayward like in that he just knows how to get in the way with the running game. He knows where to hit the holes for the running game. He started as a nose tackle at Michigan State last year. He was a nose tackle, and then Oregon, he transferred there. They made him drop 20 pounds, and he all of a sudden has this quickness and this juice, and he led all defensive tackles in pass rush. So he's got both aspects of his game equally refined at this point, and it's very Cam Hayward like. Cam Hayward was selected at 30 overall, I believe.
31.
Derek Harmon,
that was after the Super Bowl
31.
loss.
That's right. So then I really do believe that Derek Harmon and Cam Hayward are physical mirror images of each other, clones of each other, and then their skill sets align very well as well.
Awesome. Hey, man, I'll probably let you go. What are your thoughts on the Pat McAfee visit with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I tweeted out that I thought that if there was a contest for who could say the most words without actually saying anything at all,
I saw that.
Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin might be the two top people in that discussion. So a lot of people are going to be like, well, he's not all in on football, and so I don't want him to be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been like all in 100% in like a rookie would be on football since or in years, right? He's had his side things going on, and that's just part of the package that you get with Aaron Rodgers. But other than that, I mean, I didn't take anything away from it other than he's trying to figure out what his last stop's going to be, if he is going to make a last stop. And he's got a lot going on personally. And as long as it's a decision made before training camp, I don't think it matters one way or the other as far as helping the Steelers out this year. And like you've said, like our source has said, the Steelers aren't changing their plans. They're not wrapping their offseason schedule and plans around Aaron Rodgers. If he's decides to sign, he decides to sign. If not, They feel like they have the pieces in place already, the backup options in place already, and the draft coming up to take care of business at that end and rely on the coaching and the defense to get them to contention again.
Yeah, you're right. All right, man. I want to give you an opportunity to plug what you're doing, both Draft Dynasty podcast. The Steelers Fix was good this week. Go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, so definitely go check out the Steelers Fix. We did our draft primer. Basically, we went over everything we think we know, all the rumors, some basic predictions on that one. And then we'll have our dueling mock drafts for the Steelers only on the Steelers Fix next week. Andrew and I are each going to do one for the website and also break those down on the Steelers Fix. And then Andrew's going to be doing the full 7-round mock draft. I don't touch that, but I'm going to do a round 1 mock draft like I do every year right before everything, just to get my final predictions in. So stay tuned for that. And then Draft Dynasty podcast, we're going over sleepers in this week's episode that you can catch on FFSN NFL feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And then next week, it's going to be Mock Draft Central again for the whole NFL that we're going to be going through on that show. So stay tuned. Lots coming up.
Absolutely. Love it, man. Thanks for your time, and we'll be in touch. I know you're going to be on the live stream and stuff, so we'll be talking next week for sure. Take it easy, man. Enjoy the draft.
Wouldn't miss it, Jeff. See ya.